Good evening, everyone. We're here for simple solutions for children with special needs, and it's a mom's panel. And our three moms are, the first one I'm going to show you is Gretchen Strom, and she's going to talk about her son. And then Jill Ellis, she happens to have a son, so she's going to talk about her son. And Lisa Erickson happens to have a son, and she's going to talk about her son. And then Chris Watinsky is sick, hopefully getting better, and we'll give you a little update on her son. So Jill Ellis is going to go first, and we're going to get her started with what children do you have, and what kinds of things were you looking for the years of their lives, and where has that brought you?
Okay. We have Henry. Henry is a middle schooler at Kingsford. He is 11 years old, and Henry was born at 31 weeks, so really premature, had the cord wrapped around his neck. So cerebral palsy is his diagnosis. He walks with a walker, and so balance issues and tone, which is muscle tightness. Those are the things that he deals with.
Good. And your daughter's, you have a daughter, Sylvie.
We do have a daughter, Sylvie. Sylvie is going to be 15 next month, and right now is at driver's ed.
Cool. Good. And we'll do Lisa. What has your journey been and your family?
Okay, so we have 3 children. Bradley, who's 22, and our daughter Courtney is 14, and our son Riley is 11. And we homeschool all the children, so he had some learning problems that we could tell early on.
Okay. And Gretchen, we'll come over to you. Tell us about your journey with your children and your children.
I have 2 children. My daughter Anna is 27 and has been a wonderful big sister for her little brother, Mark, who is going to be 24 this Saturday. And Mark has autism and has a lot of echolalic language and trouble with new circumstances, and very restricted diet to mostly breads, crackers, any cookies he can get his hands on, and milk is his favorite. So that has been an issue with chronic constipation and behaviors that have been challenging throughout his life. And it's just been really an interesting journey, and has turned out well for us. So
Good. Good. And Jill, you're going to give us a little information on Chris, who couldn't be here tonight because she's with the flu. I think she's talking a little bit more about her results.
I think so too. So she has a son, Braden. But how old is Braden?
It's probably 15 now.
15?
15
also?
or 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she talks about how he used to only be able to be in a classroom for about 10 minutes. Now he's in there the whole time. He also plays in the pep band, which sounds like that turning point was a big deal. His contact with his peers has increased, and he greets people that come into the house or at school, and he rarely gets sick.
Yep. Good. Good. So, solutions. So what solutions have you found for your children? We'll go back to Jill.
Oh, okay. So the first that we're going to talk about is the interactive metronome. So Henry was entering 5th grade, and he left 4th grade still not reading well and had 0 interest in learning how to read. It was always a forced thing, and we thought, oh boy, he's going to be a 5th grader now. We need to be upping our game as parents. And I knew Deb and talked with her. She had given me things on cerebral palsy and the interactive metronome. We were impressed with what we saw with the double-blind, placebo-controlled. I knew what those studies looked like, and so we thought it can't hurt anything. And his interactive metronome scores have improved. We've gone, I don't know, since the beginning of school.
Mhm.
So we're on our second set of sessions, and he is now wanting us to read to him. He's more curious about reading. He is doing much better in school. His attention span is a whole lot better. We bring him to physical therapy once a week to UP rehab, and Sarah is seeing improvement in his balance, and that was one of the things that we are hoping to improve also. Because the hope for Henry is to get rid of the walker and walk with, well, it's been different through this time. It was that he was going to walk with the 2 sticks, but just even last week, Sarah had said the possibility of walking with just 1 stick in the future and then getting rid of them altogether is possible. Because, you know, with improvement in balance, yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Good. All right, we'll go to Lisa.
Okay, so last year in November, we met Deb and started our first 15 sessions of the metronome with Riley, and my husband was a complete skeptic, but said, well, it isn't going to hurt him, so you can at least try it. And we saw an improvement not just with Riley with reading, but also able to pay attention for a longer period of time, and gaining an understanding of phonics that he didn't have at all. Like, it made no sense to him before. Also being more engaged. So even though we homeschool, we belong to a group and we meet once a week, and his tutors saw that he was engaging in the content, and he was even asking really good and appropriate questions. So we did the next 15, and then it just continued to grow. So there was a gap of time between the first 2, and he didn't lose anything on his metronome scores. So what he had gained, he didn't lose, and his brain pathways just continued to use those new pathways that were created. So it developed him not just academically, but also just the way that he responds to people and ability to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. And Miss Gretchen.
It's probably been about 1.5 years since, or maybe even longer than that, close to 2 years, since we first did metronome for Mark. And the first session, I recall he was in and out very quickly, and wasn't really going to sit and settle down to participate, and stuck it out. And by the end of, I think about the 3rd or 4th session, he was staying through the class the entire time and needing like one break partway through to walk around, get a drink, and come back and finish what he was working on. But it was a real challenge for him to put the monitors on his hands and to wear those, and he was able to work through it and accomplish it. And I think he really enjoyed participating, and you know, I can't remember exactly how much, you know, his numbers were, but I know that it was a really good experience for him, and he seemed to calm down a little bit. And shortly after that, we got an opportunity for Mark to move to a group home, which we had been waiting for 4 years for, and we were really concerned about all the transition. And we had a huge behavior plan from the school and North Point, trying to make sure we covered everything that had been issues in the past, and we didn't need any of those plans. Just transitioned beautifully, and we couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
Wow.
So, and he's now been there for 1 year, and I continues to amaze me. So,
Tell your story about when you brought him home for the weekend on Friday.
Yes, we're gonna do a 3-day weekend, 2 nights at home, and Mark is at Schloud's adult foster care home in Stevenson, and so when we talk about Schloud's, it's, you know, we're gonna be home, you know, with Mom for 2 days, good day with Mom, and then Schloud's, you know. Well, he came down the first night. We went and went out on the pontoon with our friends, and he had a great night, and he was just like another calm person when he's out on the water. and came home, did our bath, did the routine, and the next morning he came down with his suitcase. Let's go Schlouts, go Schlouts. And he had his suitcase packed and he was ready to go. And I'm like, but honey, you know, I got another day here, you know. And he's like, let's go Schlouts. I'm like, you sure? Okay, you know. And he took his bag, went out to the car and sat and waited for me. And it was like, well, I was very grateful because then I know that he feels at home there and he's comfortable. He likes the people he's living with. And now we're just the old boring fuddy-duddies that are the parents. But we've done our job, I guess, because, you know, all these pieces of the puzzle are coming together. And Mark has now lost 30 pounds because we also did Juice Plus and the omega-3s. And he's continuing to take the omega-3s. He's expanded his diet, which was pretty much white, you know, toast bread, crackers, cookies. If you could get a hold of the cookies, you were lucky if you got one when you asked for a cookie, you know, and he was going to keep the rest, and it was a battle. And now we have it in his IEP that he's going to try new foods, and in his plan at the house to try new foods. And his teacher is exceptional and diligent, and she takes a separate tray from his and she sets aside time and says, you know, what are we gonna eat today? And he has to choose the new food he's gonna try, and she takes a separate tray so the food isn't on that he's risking, you know,
Giving
this try. He is not on his tray. He doesn't have to carry it, and he gets to carry the other food. So she is exceptional at planning options for him to be successful, which I think is part of what we look at for our kids, is ways to build on their strengths, and instead of always looking at their deficits, saying what are they good at and how do we build that and strengthen it. And so he's tried so many new foods in the past year, both at school and at the house, and he doesn't drink a gallon of chocolate milk anymore. He's lost his 30 pounds and now has, you know, balanced off, gained a couple back. I think he's where he's supposed to be now because he's at a healthy weight, where before he was getting a little chunky. He's just looking like the rest of the family. So now he looks like a fantastic young man.
Yes.
And but his ability to say he wanted to go to Schlouts and was ready to go, and was such a huge step for him. And he's happy and well adjusted, and I'm so grateful.
Thank you. And we'll go to Jill and her, any additions for Henry?
Yeah. So when did nutrition come in? So about 4 years ago, Henry, same thing, the chronic constipation, which when a child's constipated, then they don't want to eat the next meals because they don't feel good. And so I would make dinner, he'd kind of move it around on his plate. And then he actually would get such a stomachache that he'd throw up. And then Lance and I knew it was time to intervene. And the doctors would suggest Miralax, but he could pick that out no matter what we put it in. And I knew it wasn't a long-term solution for him. And so we were introduced to Juice Plus 4 years ago, just thinking we can't get enough fruits and vegetables into him. And but one of the side effects of it was that his chronic constipation went away, and that meant he felt better more days. And so he can follow that, you know, his school routine. He's not staying home from school with a bellyache. We can stay on our karate routine, our interactive metronome routine, and our physical therapy routine. The other thing that happened is he wasn't getting sick like he was. There wasn't the colds, the flus. He wasn't getting sick like his classmates, which then again, we could keep our routine going. We do these things trying to give him the best future possible. And so those two, they're not getting sick anymore. And if he gets even the slightest sniffle, we just do a double up and never gets past that. And that chronic constipation. He was also anemic. And the solution to anemic is iron supplements, which constipate. So that wasn't going to work for us.
Yeah.
Yes. And I always end with this, that when he turns 16 or when he finds out I've been talking about his constipation for years, he's just going to die. Now it's on video.
Keep it fun.
Oh, shoot. And Miss Lisa.
Yeah, we started Juice Plus at the same time as the metronome, really just weeks apart. So it's hard for me to know what I can contribute to one versus the other. But Riley says that he has more energy. And that was also something that he had a problem with. As soon as he sat down to read, yawning immediately. And he just has a little bit more ability to do more.
Mhm.
More schoolwork, so.
Good. Does anybody want to add anything?
One other thing I used with Mark, which was like about a year prior, was the doTERRA's detox for autism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like rosemary and ginger, and I can't remember what the other oils, but when I first started it, it was like a week-long protocol. And I have a massage table at home because I do the Roma Touch treatments. And I had him sit up on the table, and the first night that wasn't happening, so I chased him down after he went to bed and snuck the oils on his feet. And the next day, I got him to actually sit on the edge of the table. And the next day, he actually laid down on the table and gave me his feet. The next day, he jumped up on the table. And so for a week long, we did this. And a week later, I was in the car with him. I picked him up after school, and I had some mixed nuts or something in the middle that I'd been snacking on. And Mark reached in and ate some nuts. And never in his life had he eaten those before. He wouldn't even consider it. And so I knew that something positive had happened. And I tend to have a little lack of consistency, so I haven't gone back and done another detox. But I think it's something that would probably be a useful item to have, to do again.
Yeah, because doTERRA is just plants.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so plants have the healing power and detox power. So good. That's a great point. Anybody else?
I'll just share quick on my favorite research that is done on Juice Plus, and it's the immune system, and that the colds and flus, and it made sense why Henry wasn't getting the colds and flus. Fruits and vegetables are what our bodies are made for, and we have an innate healing properties. It just needs nutrition. We need to be doing it every single day. We were having, I was working at a dental office. We had germs coming home from there. My children at one school, and my husband teaches at another school. So it was just, that didn't change. We still had the germs coming in, but now they were getting the fruits and veggies every day to be able to ward off that sickness.
And so, Jill, what do you do with your kids now because they're not sick, so they don't get to stay home for sick days? What do you do for them?
Right. Now they get to take a day off and go to, I know, right? The teachers aren't watching. They get to do a day of snowmobiling, or they've done like a day at grandma's and go to the theater, and they get to take a day off of school to have fun because they aren't having to do it to be home and be sick. So that's been fun. And they are noticing now that they aren't getting sick like a lot of their peers. It's now becoming apparent to them. And so they have no problem taking their Juice Plus each day. Where it used to be, for about 2.5 years, it was like, you have to do this. But I knew it was doing good things in their body. And there was no way I was going to get that rainbow in any other way. So
good. Anybody else have anything?
Did you want to read out what Chase had said?
I can do that.
Oh, Lisa's got Chase.
Should I give them before and after pictures on Mark there?
Yes. So I've got a little wrinkle to let you hold that up. And so this is Gretchen with her son Mark. And there's Mark, 30 pounds heavier, 30 pounds heavier, and 30 pounds lighter.
Wonderful.
And that's really amazing. and he looks so much happier. You said he has less anxiety,
Yeah,
and so that's
trying
wonderful.
new stuff and just amazing.
Whereas before he was very rigid and wasn't going to try this or that or nothing new, and now he's a much more open book. So
Yeah.
good, thank you. And then this is Henry.
Oh, fun.
So Henry with his family, laughing, and Dad seems to be having fun. And Henry, after Interactive Metronome, picking plants off the tower garden. And then one of Henry's tasks was to learn to blow up a balloon, which was very difficult at first, but then he just took off. And then here's Henry working on the Interactive Metronome, and his scores have really come down. So, and there's Jill. The pictures of Henry. Ah,
Cute.
and then, let's see. Woo! Not very organized. Here's Miss Lisa with Riley, her son Riley. Riley graduated, and he has a thing for old historic things. You can see him in the picture with an old canteen. And he has a cannon, a miniature cannon. And then for Christmas, he got a
Well, he has oil lamps and
Steam engine.
steam engine.
yeah, and he has a World War II bag.
And then here he is after one of the Interactive Metronome sessions, picking beans off my tower garden. That was his activity that he chose. So he has the bean in his mouth like it's a mustache. And then here he is when he graduated after those first 15 sessions with Mom, and they're very happy. Good. And then Lisa's gonna, you might want to pass that around.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Lisa's gonna read off her her skeptical husband.
Yeah.
Her skeptical husband came the other night with Riley, and I wasn't sure if he was still skeptical. But then all of a sudden he started rattling off all this stuff, and I couldn't even capture it all in my head because I was like so thrown over. So I asked him to put it in writing. So Lisa, his wife, is going to read what he
And
had
actually,
to say.
you asked him to just come up with 2 sentences.
I said 2 sentences.
And here we go.
I have a paragraph.
Paragraphs. The improvements we saw in Riley were not just in academics of reading and math, but in his entire being. It is truly remarkable, and I strongly believe Interactive Metronome should be used in all schools with all children, not just ones with learning disabilities. It should not be limited to that either. It should be used in hospitals during certain recoveries, with physical therapy and nursing homes for the elderly as well. At first, I will admit I was beyond a skeptic, but now I openly tell people and try to help them.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank our panel, Lisa, Jill, and Gretchen, and Chris, who couldn't be here. And if you have any questions, you can get a hold of us. You'll find us on Facebook or message us. Thank you.